Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I still see that more people joining. Let's give a couple more minutes for everyone to join, and we'll start shortly. Thank you. Let's give it another minute and we'll be good to go. See, people are trickling in. All right, let's start, shall we? Hello, everyone. My name is Pavel. Some of you know me as Paul. I'm a customer success manager here at Lokalise. Nice to see you all. See some familiar names in the chat, some new names joining us today. Thank you for being here, guys. And today we're going to learn how ESL scaled to 20 languages for 5 different products with a centralized approach to localization. And I have Antony Seathouse, Director of Technology Product at ESL Gaming, with me today. Thank you very much for joining, Antony. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to talk today.
Oh, my pleasure. And I want to touch on a few topics today. A brief introduction to esports industry and ESL gaming, why localization is important for esports, how localization was handled before implementation of Lokalise at ESL Gaming. We want to learn about your current localization process and what is results of implementing Lokalise. And also at the end, we're going to have a quick Q&A, maybe like 10, 15 minutes. Feel free to ask your questions in questions tab, and Antony and I will do our best to answer as many as we can within the time frame. This presentation is going to go about 40 minutes today. All right. I've got to say I'm a big fan of esports and what ESL Gaming is doing in this space. Maybe for those who are not aware what esports is, it's a video game tournaments that happen both online and offline, and most of the time they're live streamed on platforms like Twitch. And the biggest events feel real arenas and viewership rivals sporting events. So Antony, how does ESL Gaming do in the landscape of esports? What do you do, guys?
We do everything esports. We're the oldest and largest global and independent esports company, organizer. For more than 20 years now, we've been building esports online and offline, from the stadium filling events under the Intel Extreme Masters and our ESL One brands, as well as behind the scenes for partners around the globe. We also have our DreamHack LAN parties and our online tournaments across PC, mobile, and on consoles, and everything else in between that. In terms of online products, we're best known for our tournament platform, ESL Play, which is where the ESL started 20 years ago, as well as our Counter-Strike platforms, ESEA and CSGO Hub, as well as our Minecraft platform, Badlion.
And as the director of technology products, what are your responsibilities and main localization challenges that you address with Lokalise?
So one of my teams are responsible for the tournament system that powers ESL Play and the integrations that we have with games and platforms. We have an integration with the PlayStation dashboard. One of my other teams is responsible for working with teams on architecture and infrastructure problems, as well as core services that our products use, especially in this case, our integration with Lokalise. And for localization, we've always supported tournaments around the world. So localization is important for us because, we support users all over the globe. So it's just something that we need to do.
Absolutely. Esports is such a global presence, and there are huge markets that are not really, where English is not very well spoken, I guess. And I myself, as a fan of viewer, can totally appreciate how it is important to have your products in so many languages. Maybe we can talk a little bit about your team and who works in Lokalise with you.
So the team and the translation services that integrate with Lokalise is one of the responsibilities of our core team. It's a small team of just 2 or 3 people. In particular, the work on the localized integration, it's so stable and reliable that we basically barely need to touch it since we set it up now 2 years ago. Per product, usually 1 or 2 developers take care of making sure that translations are added to Lokalise, either automatically or by hand. And finally, the actual translation is done by, we have a group of translators that are mostly sourced from our staff around the world. Usually we only need 1 or 2 people per language to stay up to date on new translations.
Let's jump to this topic. I would love to learn how localization was set up before you started using Lokalise.
Yep. So before Lokalise, there were basically 3 approaches. The first one, so ESL Play, our oldest product, had at least 2 generations of translation tool built into itself, which isn't so crazy when you remember it's 20 years old. For other products, we would use alternatives or workarounds like using Google Sheets or sending emails around. And last but not least, the worst case was we would just skip having translations where the overhead of was just not worth the trouble, which was always very sad and frustrating.
Oh yeah, I can totally understand that. And so when did you understand that you need a better system in place to handle localization?
So especially for those products that didn't have a translation system, we wanted them to have the same level of translation coverage. It was just simply dumb not to have translations, especially when we already had a tool. But we knew that we didn't want that our tournament platform is also the translation tool for the rest of our products, because that's also really stupid. So we knew we needed to either break the tool out or build a new one or find an existing tool. We looked around at the options from including self-hosted and open source and other online services. And for us, localized was the sweet spot of had the pricing and the price model worked with how our translators and projects, how they develop, as well as features and the user experience for using it itself. Especially for us, we are big users of the APIs and webhooks because they give us the flexibility, and we can integrate however we like and keep us so we're not too coupled to our translation tool.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of APIs and webhooks, I know that you've built some automation with APIs and webhooks that trigger where certain events happen in localize, for example, like keys being added or updated or translations being updated. Can you describe your current workflow a little bit for us?
Yep. So from the start, new translations are added to Lokalise either automatically synced from code, i.e., like a build process, or otherwise manually added either by developers or people like me, product owners. Then, depending on the importance, either someone pokes the leader of the translation team, or they will get notified by emails from Lokalise or through the Lokalize's task system. Whenever a translation is added or changed in Lokalise, we use the webhooks to sync to our translation service and store them locally in our databases. Our products and services can then pull translations from this service however they like. They can do it on build, at runtime, like when rendering a page, or in front end over APIs.
Okay, yeah, and so this approach does not use localization files, and one of the other most common use of localize. How was it decided not to do file export or just feed the data via API?
For us, because our existing products didn't use localization files, because we already had the history of translations being stored in a database, it was easier for us to integrate into the existing systems without using it. And yeah, for example, at least our mobile app does indirectly use localization files, but it also pulls the translations on build from our service rather than having to pull directly from Lokalise.
Sorry.
That way, it uses the same API both at runtime, so it pulls fresh translations from the same API that our other front ends use. It uses the same API in both places.
Mm-hmm. And if we take a step back from the technical kind of developer aspect of Lokalise and look more into project management, what do you use to maybe communicate within the product or assign tasks and improve translation quality with existing localized features?
Apart from just manually poking the leader of the translation team, they get emails automatically from Lokalise when translations are added. One or two products also use the task system to bulk notify all the translators, especially when there's like a whole new batch or feature. The quality overview in Lokalise is also super helpful so the translators for each language can see the number of translations that are currently missing or have quality issues like white space and stuff like that.
Okay. And if we check, because you've been using the product for like 2 years already, and maybe if you can highlight progress so far and what you've learned using Lokalise and what are the main benefits of it? What does it mean to you to use Lokalise?
The top benefit is, of course, not having to build and maintain our all tool. We now use it in around 5 products. ESL Play, ESL ID, CSGO Hub, and the tournament system, as well as our PlayStation integration. By having a single tool and a common workflow, it makes it easy to onboard new products. We simply just create a new project in Lokalise, copy paste the webhook configuration, and that side is all done. And then on the dev side, they can similarly copy paste their integration with the internal services. Thanks with the webhooks and the APIs that Lokalise provide, we can integrate however we like. So we have our integration at the moment is relatively isolated. So we're very flexible in if we want to change how we sync the translations or how we serve them. The user experience is way better than anything we could do. You guys you're specialized in building translation tools, so a lot of the power features are super helpful, like automating translations, the better quality support for things like ICU, spelling and grammar checks, and the other QA checks that I mentioned before for making sure that there's no missing parameters or trailing white space, typos. That's all stuff that we would never have built ourselves, as you know, those are nice to have features if you're not focusing on building a translation tool. Everything together, it means for us that there's the overhead of managing translations is just tiny now. It's just not something that we think about day to day. That allows us to focus on building esports.
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you for noticing the UI changes and improvements. The team's been working hard to do kind of new paths through to make it more exciting, to make more contemporary and consistent, because we care how the product looks like. I had a experience with other localization tools, and it seemed like they're stuck in the past for most cases. Weirdly enough, because Lokalise was built kind of by developers for developers, and developers like more agile and workflows and streamlined interfaces. So we want not only to provide good service like localization tools, but also nice user experience.
Yeah, that was already one of the, while trying out the different products, Lokalise was, I think, by far the best UX 2 or 3 years ago. And I still think it is the leader from the last time I looked around.
Okay. I see more questions trickling in. Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute. I just wanted to ask maybe, what would you suggest or advise other tech companies, or pretty much any company these days is a tech company, if they want to start using Lokalise? Maybe some tips and tips for Antony?
I would definitely say dive into the webhooks and the API docs. They're very, very good. It allows you to really build and integrate however you like. It makes it so you can, however your existing system is, it should be easy to find a way to glue Lokalise into your workflow without having to rework your, like everyone has legacy systems. Everyone has a different legacy to deal with. For us, it was very easy to just integrate Lokalise in. Having that one central service, or essential services for us, means that we just hook Lokalise in one place, and then all of our projects can consume Lokalise however they like.
Exactly, yeah, and automation is always important, and we try to make our APIs more accessible, to add more and more endpoints to webhooks to build better automation.
I'm going to take a crack, I think, at some of the questions.
Awesome,
okay, yeah. So Shannon asks, could you speak more about the translation database we already had prior to using the webhook, because we don't use file exports? Do other companies like mine that don't have this existing DB to build this ground up? In this case, is the DB akin to a translation memory manager? So speaking about ESL in particular, the user interface translations for us, they were always served from the database, our legacy PHP monolith. So for us, rather than rework this, which is definitely still something out of scope for us. We kept having it in a database, and we made it so that whenever using the webhooks, they tell us every time a translation changed and what the differences are, and then our service then updates the entry in the database. So for us, Lokalise is purely about the tool for managing the translations as the interface for the translators, and then we keep the storage and serving completely separate. Would you have to put this ground up? If you don't already use the database, then you could integrate with Lokalise directly and just have your applications use Lokalise as the API. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, you can do it similar to us and keep it separate. We were fortunate in that we already have a database driven, which allowed us so that we don't have to have like a runtime dependency on Lokalise. I hope my explanation was understandable enough.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Let's grab another one. See, Maxim is asking if when you have releases and you need to change all translations in once, how do you handle it with webhooks?
So generally, our team, we just add the translations in Lokalise whenever they are being added to code, even if the feature isn't online. It's not a concern for us, really, if translations are already there. We're a little not so fussed about if someone managed to find out about something by looking into our translation files. That's maybe fortunate. So we're basically always just, our translations are just always being live updated. And if front end isn't there yet, then we don't really mind. It's not a concern for us at the moment. If we did care about that, I do think Lokalise has some tooling. It does have the branches feature, which I've used before when working on something, which is maybe a good use case for keeping your future translations separate from the current live translations. Yeah, I hope that's a good enough answer.
Sure, that makes sense. Do you want to pick another one?
Yep, I'll take this one. Do you bundle translation data into deployment packages? Is it served via front-end applications or back-end applications? I'll say yes to all three. So ESL Play, large parts of it are served, like they're rendered on the back end. The translations are pulled. So ESL Play, the website, is actually Drupal. It pulls the translations from the translation service on page render. I think actually from cache, but besides, and then it injects it into the browser front end. Some of our translations are served and consumed over REST APIs, and then front end just loads them over the API. For our mobile app, translations are baked into the releases to the app stores, and then are kept up to date as the user uses the app, like once a day or whenever caches expire. It also can pull fresh translations and cache them on the user's device. I hope that answered all three options.
Awesome, thank you. Let's have a look what else we have here.
Yeah, pick whatever you think jumps out. I'm gonna pick one.
Okay.
What happens when your localization service is down? What is the fallback scenario? It depends on product. I think some products would be fine. We have caches, or like e.g. the mobile app. It has pre-baked translations and otherwise caches a full copy of translations. So that would be fine. Other apps may be lucky if the user has already visited before, they will also have it cached in their browser. Definitely in a couple of cases, that would be a problem. Fortunately, our translation serving service is, as it's so simple, it's not really a worry for us. But if it was a concern, it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to add a little bit more resilience to the products that need to consume the translations by following a similar strategy. They could more aggressively cache it on the product side rather than always pulling at runtime. I hope that's a good answer. And I especially hope none of my colleagues will kill me for it.
You're good, you're good. I'm going to pick one here, and maybe you can add something to that as well. It's how do you roll out localize and onboard different stakeholders? Any tips? Well, what I can say from a localized side of things, we have onboarding guides for different stakeholders, like your translators, your developers, product owners, product managers, because there are different sides of localize, and we cater to different stakeholders, and they are quite informative, and I encourage all of you guys in the chat here to check our page with blogs and guides. They're very detailed, and of course our support team guys are doing a great job. There's a chat available on every page, and response time is less than a couple of minutes, which is amazing. Tried other services that you're lucky if you get an answer within half an hour. I don't know, because you've joined Lokalise actually before my time, so if you have any tips, what was the onboarding, how to onboard your colleagues with Lokalise? If you have anything to add to this.
No, so I can talk about just how our process went when we introduced Lokalise. So once I was relatively sure that Lokalise was a good candidate, I just quickly, using the trials, set up a test project and had some of the people that I knew would be interacting with it, try it out. Once they were happy, we picked I believe one of the smaller projects or services that needed to use translations. Implemented that as a proof of concept, got to the translators on board, and once everyone was happy and everything was confirmed working, we then one by one added more projects. Because of the way we're kind of isolated, or that we have this interface with Lokalise, it made it easy to just swap over, as we never had like a runtime dependency. It was always just telling people that this is the new interface, stop using the old interface.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Let's grab another one here. Do you do any linguistic quality assurance for your products that you localize? And is it through Lokalise?
I would say not in any kind of formal way. So most of our languages probably have only one or two translators. I would say probably sometimes there's, I think at least in our bigger languages, at least a second translator may double check the translations. It's super dependent on project and scope and importance. I would say in general, it's not a big concern for us, but we do know that Lokalise has the tooling to make that a process if we ever wanted to enforce it.
Mm-hmm. And I want to add here that LQA is totally possible through Lokalise, as we have a set of QA checks, and if it's applicable to a product that is being localized, we have integrations with design tools like Sketch, Figma, Adobe XD, so you can get designers involved and see how your product looks in different languages, kind of in a runtime pretty much. You can flip the switch, see how your design is localized in a different language. So, and with these integrations, you can do it at a very early stage, so you don't have to wait when everything is completed and then do a QA. And it saves a lot of time, actually, and effort to do LQA quite an early stage.
I'm also just answering a couple of the in text.
Awesome.
I think this was covered by LQA. Going to take this one in your CI/CD process. I guess you have one. Where does your testing for language testing and so on happen? And how does Lokalise help you there? Yeah, we have CI/CD. Not as much impact on translations as at least on the backend side. The translations are just keys. Our front end CI/CD, I think in some projects, does incorporate making sure that keys are there, at least in English, or at least translations are there in English. How does Lokalise help us here? I think, like I said earlier, if we wanted to, we could use the branching more to keep that kind of separate from, so translations that are being actively worked on can be, if we wanted to, separate from the live or production branch. For us, we're pretty much always adding translations, so it's not much of a concern. So TLDR is, if we wanted to, we could have more tooling around it. For us, we haven't needed to. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I hope that's sufficient.
Let me take this one. Can we touch on existing external services of people translated instead of machine translated content through localized, the use case and any experience around it? Well, I can say about the options of people translated instead of machine translated. There are ways to order people translations by real people through a localized interface, and of course, the customers are free to invite language service providers. We are partnered with a couple of them actually as well, and freelancers. That's also a common approach. So they would be treated like regular contributors in your team. You invite them and you assign tasks for them, so you have a visibility over the process. As a project manager, you select a translator, the languages, the scope of the tasks, so it's quite an easy way to manage your localization workflows, so not necessarily using just machine translations. Okay. What else do we have here? See, there is more questions that's probably I cannot necessarily answer about future development and file formats, but don't worry, guys. All the questions that we cannot touch live on this call, we'll get back to you and reply via email, so you'll get your answers. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, well, I don't see any more questions that are specific to me. There is the one CDN question, but I think that's covered by what you just mentioned. It's more of a roadmap.
Exactly. I need to check with my team before I said anything, so I'll totally get back on this one. Okay, let me refresh again, see if there is any new questions coming in, or maybe anyone posted them in chat instead of a questions box. All right, there's a question about pricing. Well, of course, guys, you can head to localize.com/pricing and find the all necessary information there.
Just to answer Jemima's question. Whoops. Start live answer. Does ESL use any plugins that Lokalise offers? So apart from extensively the webhook integration, I'm not sure if we're using, I think, is there also a Figma plugin now?
Yeah.
I know that our team, I think, may have looked into using the Figma plugin, but I'm not sure if at least one of the teams may be using it. In general, we don't use any of the other integrations, but we know they're there. And for us, yeah, everything kind of revolves around the webhook plugin. I'm just having a quick look. I thought that we were maybe using Figma integration, but I guess not at the moment. But I know that one thing that's nice is to know that there is a lot of plugins, and I'm sure that they're useful for a lot of other people's use cases.
Mm-hmm. Say a comment that Adobe XD has localized plugin. Well, exactly. Yeah, there is localized plugins and XD and the Figma, and to let you on in the secret, guys, there is more coming in. So watch the space. Our roadmap is full of exciting plugins and features. So watch the space.
Hopefully, a Discord integration, maybe.
I need to lobby that as well. I'm a gamer myself, yeah, and localized Discord plugin would be fun. See if I can ping the product guys again. Can we have Discord? That would be cool.
I'm going to answer Shannon's question. What are your localization related success metrics in the context of how things have improved over the overhead time, of course? Do you measure growth metrics, customer complaints? Asking because language is largely qualitative. I think I definitely agree that it's largely qualitative. For us, the metrics or the goals were that we have one tool that we can do all of our similar products using, that we got the tool out of our existing tool. So take translation management out of our user-facing product, standardize on having a single tool that can work with all of our products, that all of our translators are happy using that product, and that that's easy for them, that the overhead of I know you said don't include overhead, but at the first that was important, that it's really little to no effort to stand up a new service or project in the tool. And all of the projects that were missing translations that had no good reason to, getting all of those into Lokalise or into a tool was for us the number one goal. And for us, that was all done and easy within a few weeks for us. Apart from that, the ongoing metrics we don't exactly monitor, but our translation team they stay on top of keeping new translations up to date and so on. But it's not like for us a critical business stopping issue. We are happy, and we want to make sure we have at least basic support in all languages. But we also know that if a couple of translations are missing sometimes, everyone is more or less okay. I'm going to say that's okay now.
Okay, so we have time for one or two questions. I'm going to take a question from Dan. Could you explain a bit more how these plugins could help a designer? So Adobe XD plugin, Figma plugin, the idea is that you can start localization process at the design stage. Basically, your artboards, your elements, text in them can create keys and add screenshots automatically when you do a synchronization between your design tool and Lokalise. So developers can become a driving force of this process. And we have a couple of customers that kind of completely design driven in this sense, in localization. All the texts create keys. You do translations in Lokalise, and back in your design tool in the plugin, you switch the language and you see how it translated in a different language. And as previously mentioned in regards to the LQA question, for example, you can see, does it fit in your text box? Maybe like German, notoriously longer language. So you might think, all right, either need to reword that or maybe change the design a little bit. So that's how designers can be a big part of the process. All right, Antony, do you want to pick one more? And I think we'll be wrapping up. I think you're muted.
Oops. Thank you. So I think this is a good question. Do you also use Lokalise for other use cases other than product interfaces, e.g. FAQ articles, so content? We do have one use case that we are going to use. So Lokalise does have, trying to think what the wording of it is. I think it has like a file translation. I don't know if it has a name, but
we
yeah,
call
you
it
can document translation. Thank you. Yeah. So we have one use case where we are going to use the document translation feature for managing and versioning our the global rules on at least one of our websites. We don't use it anywhere else yet, though we know that it's there. I've found it quite easy to use. You can upload. At least you can upload HTML, if you just have like a big blob of HTML, you upload it, Lokalise finds all of the fragments that are actual text, and those are then editable by the translators, and then you can then just download the document in each language with the translated text inside, preserving all the other formatting and markup and so on. Which is why for us it was a good fit for the use case we're going to use is for our rules, for at least our global rules, as it's you obviously don't want translators messing around with the markup of a page, and this was a good case where we had a big blob of translations that we wanted the translators to see everything in context. And also have support for like inline images or lists and so on. And the document editing view in Lokalise made that very good. And the way it picked up the fragments and kept them separate worked perfectly as I would have designed it myself.
Awesome.
But at the moment, that's our only use case.
I wanted to add here in terms of FAQ, Lokalise does have integration with Zendesk, Intercom, Contentful. So if you use any of those products for your knowledge bases, FAQ articles, you can also create a bidirectional synchronization with these articles and Zendesk help centers to localize the content. Okay, and I think we should be wrapping up. We are ran out of time. Well, thank you very much, Antony. It was a pleasure to learn more about ESL, and viewers had a chance to pick your brain.
Yep, thank you. I'm also just going to answer a couple more of the open questions via text.
Oh, such a legend. Thank you very much. Antony is always here to help you guys. And there's some unanswered questions, and don't worry, we'll get back to you guys via email, and we'll get the information that you desire. And please visit localize.com, check our blogs and webinar recordings. We're doing these type of events regularly. You can find more interesting content to watch, and see you next time.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.